Apologies in advance for the devastation.
Goldmary has slowly risen the ranks to become one of my favorite characters since Fire Emblem Engage came out in January 2023. Fire Emblem Engage isn't a game that I would say has a good story. It's remarkably bland, especially following how ambitious Three Houses was narratively. However, I do think Engage's cast of characters has some charm and can shine if given attention, and if there's one thing Goldmary loves, it's attention, so that's what this video is all about. One of my favorite things about Goldmary is her design. People go back and forth about Engage's art direction, and I can see both sides of the argument. Some characters knock it out of the park, while others feel a bit too busy. Goldmary's feels perfect. I love her color scheme, and her outfit is a great blend of elegant and practical, and even the less practical elements like wearing heels on the battlefield and limiting the amount of actual armor she's wearing tell you something about her character, and that is, she wouldn't be caught dead wearing anything that doesn't accentuate her charm. Goldmary was put on this planet to do one thing better than anyone else, and that is humble brag. She is always apologizing for how beautiful she is, how good she is at fighting or cooking, how privileged her upbringing was, and she will fish for compliments constantly. And if she feels that you're challenging her on any of it, she won't be afraid to hurl a few insults your way. She essentially calls Boucheron an idiot for not praising her cooking to her satisfaction, and she and Etier engage in a drawn-out mudslinging contest over, what else? A baked potato.
That's it. No more talk. Give me that potato.
No.
You'd think that this would all make her horribly unlikable, but consider the following. First, and most importantly, it's funny as hell. Put her up against someone who completely stonewalls her like Ike or especially Soren, and she doesn't stand a chance.
Are you even listening?
Why am I working so hard for someone who doesn't even give me any compliments?
No interruptions, please. Now, about your combat positioning.
I've actually begun to take constructive criticism. What have you done to me?
Secondly, the things that she brags about, she's actually appropriately good at, like cooking, for instance. According to the other characters, she's actually very talented at it and good at teaching others as well. Third, as long as you're willing to feed her ego, she can actually be very kind and thoughtful, doling out compliments as often as she receives them and caring deeply for those around her. She even apologizes to Etier after their numerous verbal exchanges, and the two are able to settle their differences. If you're wondering if Goldmary's attitude is sourced from her backstory, it kind of is. She was born an only child in a small town, to parents who run the finest hot springs in Elusia, as she loves to remind people. Goldmary, through the praise and validation given to her by her parents and customers of the hot springs, developed quite the ego. But when she went off to study at Elusia's academy, she realized that she was just a very talented fish in a small pond. You'd think this would knock her down a peg and humble her, but no. She just started putting in more effort to meet higher and higher expectations, all to sustain her own self-image. It's crazy and definitely unhealthy, but this is Fire Emblem Engage, motherfucker. And this cast of cartoon characters, she makes me laugh the most, and that's why I love her. But how is she as a unit? She's okay. She's alright. In a hilarious contrast to her personality, Goldmary is not a top-tier unit, or even high-tier. If we're talking strictly about her performance relative to the game, I'd place her as a mid-tier unit at best. Goldmary officially joins your army in Chapter 16, after she and Rosado steal the Ring of the Azure Twins and defect from the Elusian army to join your group. The fact that she isn't available for over half the game does not help her case, but there's still enough playtime left that if you're really struggling for physical duelists, she can fill the role just fine, but she doesn't outdo any of her competition in anything other than defense. Speaking of which, her defense stat is easily her greatest selling point. 20 base defense on a unit with competent speed is definitely impressive, and her defense growth is actually the highest in the game, so if you do dedicate a slot on your team to her, she can continue shrugging off physical blows well into the late game. Her other greatest selling point, which is a sort of consolation bonus for her late join time, is her high amounts of SP, which you can use to inherit all sorts of skills. The most popular use for these points is to level up her bond with Lucina and have her inherit Dual Assist Plus, allowing her to take up to 20% of a foe's maximum HP if they're in range of her when an ally battles them, assuming she's still in her base hero class. This lets her function as a great chip damage bot with minimal investment out of the box if you're looking to fill a slot on your roster. Her personal skill, Disarming is also a point in her favor. It inflicts an extra minus 20% hit chance on male foes, which is both perfectly in character and surprisingly useful. Now, you're never going to play around this, but it's certainly appreciated since most enemy units in the game are male anyway. So her defense, her ability to chain attack, and her personal skill are all great, but everything else is just middling at best. Her strength and speed are fine when she joins, but as the game progresses, due to her mediocre growths, they'll definitely need some investment if she wants to do any sort of meaningful damage on her own turn. The best she'll do most of the time is run in, strike an enemy's weapon triangle weakness, then prepare for more chain attacking. She's actually more of a supportive element on the battlefield than anything else, especially as the game becomes more offense-driven as you progress. Of course, this being modern Fire Emblem, you can also reclass her into anything you want. Her magic growth is abysmal, so she's pretty much locked into physical classes, the standout choice seemingly being Great Knight. As I mentioned earlier, tanking becomes less and less important as the game progresses, but if you really want to lean into Goldmary's defensive capabilities, give Great Knight a shot. I also hear Halberdier can work well, but it also gives up weapon triangle control since Halberdiers can only wield lances instead of 2 weapon types, so it ups the chance of her getting broken. As always, your mileage will vary. In terms of emblem rings to pair her with, we can obviously rule out any magical rings since they don't play to her strengths. Lucina would be redundant most of the time since Goldmary is a backup unit by default, and Sigurd tends to be attached to Seadoll for longer range dancing, so that leaves us with a couple options. If you're going to reclass her into Great Knight and focus on her defenses, engaging her with Ike definitely helps her bulk. Speaking more generally, Marth and Roy can help bolster her otherwise middling offensive stats. Leaf can also make for a decent partner for her thanks to arm shield and her natural weapon triangle control. Erica can be a thematically appropriate choice and acts as a versatile option if she's actively engaging enemies. Ultimately, it depends on your roster of characters and which emblems are in demand. Goldmary's primary game plan doesn't really require the use of an emblem, just a few skills easily inherited from Lucina, so just give her whatever might be left over after the rest of your army gets their pick. Goldmary might be an absolutely horrible person to know in real life, but this is a video game, so she's awesome. She might not be the most powerful unit, but it's nice that she's dug out her own little niche and can definitely make herself useful if you need her. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the fun of Fire Emblem is finding your favorite characters and making them work, regardless of how strong they are. So don't be a loser, just choose her.
Then again, if you really were a loser, we would never have become friends in the first place.